Welcome back to Web3 Unpacked, everyone. I'm Rich Pasqua, and joining us today is Jasper Fu, CEO and founder of Coinsub, a blockchain platform that enhances subscription payments and management for subscribers and merchants. Welcome, Jasper.
Thanks, Rich. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah. And Jasper, you've kind of been in the web world for a bit now, and you've got a robust background in data structures, blockchain, business strategy, working as a platform architect, which is really interesting, and running product management. So the idea of like from code to product and the management of all that stuff, plus running a business, is a nice combination to have. And now you're the founder of Coinsub, and we're going to learn more about it. So one of the things we like to do here, Jasper, is we like to understand a little bit more about you and what your Web3 journey was like.
Gotcha. Absolutely. So I've been in crypto since, I guess, 2013. Before we really called it crypto, there was really just Bitcoin. I think XRP was around, maybe Monero. And I was using it a lot for online international purchases, we'll call it. Crypto commerce has been around for quite some while. Payment escrow systems. It's been very interesting, although it's kind of been a little bit underneath the hood that it's been used. But there is definitely a proof that this kind of space can run parallel to our current financial systems. So there have been a couple of years. I've gone into enterprise consulting at PwC, doing Fortune 50 digital transformations, and 5-6 years later, 2018, I realized, oh, hey, crypto's picking back up. Like this thing that I used about like 10 years ago is around and popular now. So jumped into taking the software engineering side of the toolkit, and ended up landing a job as director of product management for community gaming. So what they do is a Web 2 to Web 3 user onboarding through gaming. Met a really great team, a lot of great partners there, and we discovered that that in the crypto space, there's still this massive gap between like usability, mass adoption, and what we kind of the 0.5%, 1% use for yield, staking, NFT purchases, and things like that. So that's what led me to Coinsub.
Awesome. Yeah. Everyone has, a different story, and sometimes it's very similar. And usually it starts with Bitcoin at some point, and trying to transact a little bit faster, in a much different way. But at the end of the day, you're here now, and you saw a gap somewhere in the industry, and you're trying to fix that or bridge that for end users. So with that said, you and I have had a few conversations, and it was lots of fun, and we went pretty deep, and we're going to get into some really interesting topics. But can you we want to know a little bit more about Coinsub. Give us the high level. What can people expect?
Okay, so there's a big picture vision, and then there's the details of where we are right now. As a company, our mission is to create a financial system free of intermediaries for the sake of efficiency, right? So kind of the phase 2 of the original Bitcoin ethos. Now, how we plan on doing that is really tackling things from both the protocol side, the deep tech, as well as the mass consumer adoption piece. So really understanding that usability, the ease of use, is what's going to drive adoption of this. Our kind of first steps into this are really through the lens of commerce, right? Commerce is about $20 trillion globally, but naturally the current systems have a lot of walled gardens or difficult to access. So we seek to bring blockchain tech to ease some of the issues that are already present and bring more people who currently don't have access kind of into global commerce. So what Coinsub does right now is makes it super easy to accept or pay in crypto payments, something that should be similar to what you're used to. On the checkout side, you get your pay with PayPal, pay with buy now, pay later, pay with crypto, and the checkout experience is already connected to all of your wallets. And then it's a simple user interface. You just click your way through. We're trying to make it so easy that a grandma could do it.
Good. Yeah. And that is, you're bridging, you're making it really, really easier for merchants to kind of set up their almost like POS system, right? And get all types of people in, and you're solving a lot of the problems behind the scenes as far as swaps, right? You and I talked about swaps and all these like things that we have to go through every day as crypto users. Is it a stable coin that you're converting or so on, or Sol or whatever? You guys do that behind the scenes. And I think that's a really, really, really valuable. And, once people start to use it, it kind of helps the adoption. It helps people spend, right? A lot of people like you and I you sit on tokens, you maybe buy and swap, and you're into the trading part of it, but at some point you're dripping some of it out into a TradFi bank account, which is kind of antiquated. So the future of this, and you and I can get into this later, but is really to allow people with any kind of cryptocurrency to kind of spend freely. It's really fun. And talking about coins and tokens, and Jasper, what is the coin universe for Coinsub look like right now? What do you accept?
Sure. So right now we focus specifically on stablecoins, as we think that for the purpose of mass adoption and accounting and current regulations, both on the merchant side and the customer side, something that is a fixed price is a little bit easier for everyone to wrap their heads around. So right now we accept USDC. Next month we've got USDT coming up on Polygon, as well as some of the other EVM compatible chains like Ethereum's mainnet, Optimism, Arbitrum, and Base.
And I would imagine over time that kind of universe will open up a little bit more. I understand the need to transact with USDC or Tether or whatnot, a stable coin. But yeah, I mean, it could open up to basically anything, and your system will be able to calculate anything at some point, right?
That is correct. We want to make it, for the customer side of things, as easy as possible, right? You don't go pick Visa or MasterCard, or even necessarily nowadays if you're traveling internationally, you don't even pick the currency. All of that is done on the back end, and then just a little bit of a convenience fee is charged.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we spoke a little bit about. You mentioned it a little bit. The Polygon network. What are the blockchains? Your cross chain. How does that work for you guys?
Sure. So the first thing that we did was we deployed it on Polygon. Polygon is an EVM compatible layer 2. Well, thereabouts layer 2, right? And so what that means is between the USDC, USDT, and Polygon, that means we're easily replicable to any other of the EVM compatible chains within a matter of days, right? So we wanted to make sure that we got the absolute user flow and the use cases and all of the essentially bugs and kinks worked out for a seamless experience before deploying it to all these other chains. As we deploy to other chains, we really do this based off of the demand from the customer side and the liquidity on the chain itself. But you can bet that by the end of Q2, we'll have pretty comprehensive chain support, at least on the EVM compatibles.
Yeah, and you and I talked a little bit, and a little bit my history of being a creative and a designer, and designing user experiences is kind of near and dear to me. But how are you making, how is your team and Coinsub making that user experience, whether you're the merchant kind of controlling the experience or the end user? How are you making it like seamless and frictionless?
Oh gosh, I mean, at the risk of anything other than jumping into a demo right now, I'm not sure how many of the viewers would want to sit through and watch a demo. On the merchant side, we make it as simple as possible and as similar to some of the technology they're used to, say, deploying Stripe. Right. So from the product creation to the dashboard of the analytics of new customers and revenue, all of that is things that they're very familiar with. They just set it up. They set up how much it is, the recurring duration, who they're sending it to, and then we just go ahead and generate a button that they can easily embed, or payment links that they can directly send through invoices. On the customer side of things, all the user has to do is click a connect wallet button. We've got about 50 plus wallets that are supported both on mobile as well as desktop browser. And then by the time they connect the wallet, we already know which tokens they have on which chains, especially that we support, right? So rather than making the user go through all the trouble of picking a network, picking a token, and then realizing they don't have the balance, we just go ahead and check and go, hey, listen, you've got USDT on Ethereum. You've got enough balance. Here you go. Here's the one button for you to click, or two or three if there's a couple other tokens that they have the balance for.
Yeah, and then you're all set up, and I guess they can do custom if they have multiple storefronts or whatever they're doing. They can do custom type of scenarios. That's fantastic. And it's one of those things that you don't think you need, but everyone is actually going to need it. The end user shouldn't see it or understand really what's happening, but from a merchant standpoint, it's absolute freedom, right? Um, and one of the things we talk about, you and I talked about, is centralized versus decentralized, right? And how these worlds, and people don't understand sometimes that they may be interacting with a centralized system versus a decentralized system. How do you guys solve that problem? What are you guys doing?
Gotcha. So, to clarify centralized versus decentralized very loosely, we think of centralized as something where all the decision making, the gatekeeping, the permissions are held by one specific entity, right? Versus decentralized being that there is no discrete person that's saying, hey, you can or cannot use this, and that the general processing of all the data is spread across kind of different nodes or different groups. So the way that we make it decentralized is really we do stay away from fiat. That helps us keep straight to the kind of the Bitcoin ethos side of things. But what we do is we have a series of smart contracts that are fully transparent that basically process each of these transactions and help bridge the assets across one chain to another, one wallet to another, and then also execute the conditions like escrow or rebilling for subscriptions, right? But at the point of entry, all the user has to do on both sides, the merchant and the customer, is just bring their wallet, right? So we don't dictate what people can and cannot do. We just facilitate the ability for people to structure their asset transfers to each other. Um, we think that this is really the way to go, right? Because people don't really think about how embedded centralized organizations are. Your bank, for the most part, can tell you when and when you can't spend money, where you can and can't spend money. And then also, sometimes your money takes vacations, right? Like you can't get it on the weekends or after 5 p.m., which is absolutely ridiculous. But all of these things are kind of built in, and people don't think about it. People think that, oh, there has to be an intermediary, right? Like Stripe has to be there on the merchant side to say, oh, cool, this merchant is allowed to accept money. And on the customer side of saying, oh, cool, we allow you to spend this money, right? But to me, that's kind of a silly thing. If it's our money anyways, why would there need to be this intermediary that dictates a relationship between two fully independent entities?
Yeah, and hence the idea of peer-to-peer transactions, right? So, allowing people, the freedom to do things. You and I talked extensively about this, and it's like, with every transaction on your debit card or credit card or whatever it is, there's 5 or 6, 7, 8, 10 plus hands out waiting to take their slice of the pie. And now it's a lot more fluid, like you said, 24/7, which sounds kind of archaic when you say it. You when you hear it back to yourself, like, what do you mean I can't make a transaction or a bank transaction or something like that on Saturday or Sunday? It's kind of silly, but and that gets to the point of how rapidly this world is changing. And guys like you and I, who are maybe behind the consoles a little bit and building the products of today and tomorrow, are seeing things happen like a lot quicker than most people. And when you talk about crypto to most people, it's like, you're one of those Bitcoin people. Either they're in it or they're not. And you're like, well, there's a whole industry. Forget about Bitcoin and all the tokens. There's an entire industry of human beings being built, on top of blockchains, not just, technologies on top of blockchains, but people, humans building brands and products, and they're interacting at the speed of electricity, and that's one of those things. And you and I, the thing that gets us excited is that we see potential. We see what's happening at speed. So one of the really interesting topics that you and I we kind of dipped in the last time we were talking was the idea of societal change, and when people truly can spend money without exiting on an exchange and going into fiat, when they're actually have vendors and they can buy their car truly. I mean, I know Tesla and a few other people are doing this, and they allow you to, sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. And vendors change their mind for whatever reasons. But it's coming. And, let's talk about what kind of change this could bring, societal change.
Somewhere along the line, when we went from like a cash economy to digital money, right, we lost the ability to freely and independently transact,
Mm.
mainly because of the technical restrictions. It's not like, oh, central agencies or governments wanted intentionally necessary to be incredibly restrictive, but due to how the financial systems are done and how many hands touch it, and basically out of efficiency, a lot of transactions are batched, done at the end of the day, and so you get this weird lead time where money's kind of just floating in the air before it settles on a lot of these, before the bank, the clearinghouses, and things like that. So almost out of necessity, a lot of these restrictions have had to be been put into place, right? Because everybody had their own ledger system or accounting system, and they rectify it occasionally throughout the day. But now blockchain offers the ability for people to have one unified ledger for all assets, right? And that might be some across Solana, across Ethereum, even across Bitcoin, right? But all of that information is transparent. There is a way to roll that all up into one concrete, trustless source of truth. That just makes it more efficient, right? There is this future where almost like the transition from on-premise to cloud technology, right? Like nobody really talks about cloud technology anymore, but that was just like 3-4 years ago. It was all over LinkedIn, right? I find that this will lead to a natural movement of kind of a lot of the underneath the hood data storage and kind of financial accounting from whatever siloed archaic systems they have, maybe even Excel spreadsheets on chain, right? Which then enables this kind of fluidity and interconnectivity across different countries, like a truly borderless, right? Like truly borderless economy that is only limited by the reach of people's access to internet. There will be next to no friction, right? This next generation, there is this chance. You already see like Cash App and Venmo and things like this popping up, and people already transitioning to using that almost for business purposes, right? Peer-to-peer doesn't necessarily mean individual to individual, but just that the two entities themselves can directly interact. So I see that this becomes a inevitability, right? A lot of people along the way upcharge the percentage of the service fees, the 3% credit card fees, the interchange fees, kind of out of necessity to keep their operations going. But once you make the base incredibly, incredibly efficient, I think people will be able to focus more on the actual business aspect of it than trying to figure out where money passes hands for friction.
Yeah, all great points. And to you and I, all of those topics and points that you brought up there, those are points of friction. I see them as that, and people don't want to pay these fees. But ultimately, when this world and it is now, as we're talking about it, you're creating the product to facilitate it. Opens up and creates the freedom to transact like digital wallet to digital wallet with my currency with no one in between. I'm very interested in like the adoption speed for different vendors to start putting things on, on the blockchain. We're selling cars now. When is Ford going to do it? When is Amazon going to do it? That would be amazing, right? That's profound. I don't even think it should be done overnight because there's several industries, clearinghouses and all other types of financial institutions that do collect shards or portions of these fees every time you transact. But now, if you pull that rug out too fast, you've got a real disastrous collapse, potential collapse on your hands. But it does open people up who have been sitting on crypto for 10, 12 years to say, wow, I have the freedom to spend things and I actually can buy land with it or a car or send my kid to school. I can pay my kids' tuition through, through crypto. It's huge. It's wonderful. Instead of getting, dinged every time you go, off chain. So yeah, it's really interesting, and I'm very excited to kind of see what happens. I'm excited to 100% freely use this economy, this new economy that's coming up. So it's very exciting to me.
I think it might have, the state of regulations and the fragmentation of regulations and how different countries and jurisdictions treat crypto is going to be have an interesting impact on the adoption, right? A lot of people are working on the on ramps and the off ramps and trying to figure out how crypto fits into the current financial system. To me, it functions best as its own kind of parallel piece, right? Because then it's a lot cleaner to be like, okay, cool. This type of asset is ruled this way. This type of asset is governed this way, right? Rather than trying to intermix, tokenized assets with whatever's going on underneath the opaque box of current financial systems.
Yeah, good point. Because it's not, like we said before, it's not going to happen overnight. But the idea of having to offer, and 100%, it's everything's been focused about getting in and getting out, right, on the dexes or the exchanges. But I completely agree. This whole thing works as its own independent ecosystem, and I think for me, when I hear, okay, yes, we should, the fiat will be around for a very long time, or maybe not even that, with a CBDC or whatever else digital coins that the Fed may push out. That's one thing. And they may digitize the dollar. But at the end of the day, everyone has to coexist, right? And it's going to take time to go to a truly, crypto based or blockchain based environment. But the idea of being able to transact fluidly, I think that's when you get it goes beyond just flipping and trading and collecting and building equity, passively in a digital environment. It goes beyond that. And then the industry starts to grow, because now there's marketing. Now there's advertising. Now there's everything is pulled into the universe, right? It's like a black hole. It's pulling everything in. And every accountant is going to be on this, and every service is going to start to use it from a monetary standpoint. But they're also going to discover that it's not just about collecting and trading or swapping monies or coins. It's also about creating an advertising universe, a marketing universe, a place to actually create experiences. I know you're into gaming. I'm pretty much into gaming too, but the Web3 gaming universe is pretty darn exciting. And gamifying marketing experiences. We've seen, Artifact and Nike do this. They're mastering the Web3, marketing end of things, and creating NFTs that have a connection to the brand. So I think this is the part that I want people to truly understand is it's great to have tokens and to make money and trade, but there is an entire industry. And I say this more maybe toward the younger listeners. This whole industry is just getting started, and it's a layer upon layer upon layer. It's not just finance. So that's, I think, what I'm very, very excited about. And I think it's going to bring a lot of societal change.
I agree. The commerce piece aside, blockchain, having basically a ledger, or basically a balance sheet transaction history that everybody can collectively agree upon, is an incredibly powerful thing. I mean, there's quite a few use cases that you could think of, right? Like hotel loyalty points or airline loyalty points. Getting them to transfer from one to another is such a pain, right? And then I think I might have been, I think I was a consultant and part of the Marriott SPG merger. I think PwC was working on that. Some things might have passed my way, but I remember it being so incredibly cost and labor intensive to merge the two loyalty programs. It took months, right? And millions of dollars. Whereas if these things were on chain, you would just go, great, this 1 point is worth 2.2 points here. And it is all already there, right? The conversion, just like how easily we do swaps, it would
Mm.
be that easy, right? Validation and verification of people's spending habits or on-chain activities or loyalty, that would be really easy to go across. Like, I don't know, like I got like American Airlines Platinum, right? Sometimes I try to get Delta to status match, and you got to upload like a screenshot and things like that. Imagine how many man hours, HR hours that takes to do that.
Mm.
But in this case, you could just check, connect the wallet. Great, this wallet actually has this many loyalty points associated. Beyond that, as well as advertising and digital piece, people are already collecting information about us, right? That's going to happen no matter what. But blockchain tech gives people the opportunity to, one, build a more comprehensive profile, and two, be more transparent with the data, right? Like, shouldn't we be able to earn off of our data that's sold, right? Like, if it's going to be used anyways, and it kind of is used in our benefit, because I didn't know I wanted something until the ad popped up and showed me, it's okay, But in this case, if we're browsing the internet and our cookies are associated to a specific wallet address or whatever specific blockchain account, right? We could feasibly build and attribute all of this data and behavior to one person, one account, a handful of wallets. And when people opt into data collection or opt out of data collection, you could reward people each time their data is being used. Rather than just kind of advertising companies take all of it. Brave browser does a great job of this, of like, hey, we can basically block all cookies, all browser tracking. And if you turn it on, we'll give you a little bit of percentage of what we get. I think that's the way things should be, right? Just in the interest of transparency, there's a win-win situation out there for everybody. And blockchain allows that to happen.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Brave. I've been following, learning, and Brendan Eich is the founder, and he just genius stuff that they're doing, way ahead of the curve. But now you're touching on something that's even more profound, and that's the whole socializing of and the tokenomics and the socialization of tokenomics across platforms, and what it means to the individual. And a few of my colleagues and I have been talking about this for many years. So when we're the batteries right now, the Facebooks of the world, the Twitters, and the big platforms, they're supposed to be the product, but we are the product, and we're actually not making the money. We are, some people are, making money or getting the eyeballs that we really want. And that's about control, right? And I think with socialized, blockchain, you're going to see the control go back to, as you were mentioning, go back to the end user. It'll go into your wallet. It'll be controlled. You'll be able to do little sliders or whatever it may be to fine tune what you're, willing to release to the world or specific publishers, and start to really take control over your own destiny and IP. And then, so if you publish something, an article, and it takes off, you may be like in Brave, you can tip people. You may take a little slice of that pie. And every time someone sends that out, you start to, that whole pyramid builds, and you start to make some real money off of just one article. And you're not even having to track things. You're not looking at analytics. You're just looking at your wallet. To me, this is one of the more profound things that's going to happen fairly soon. When that happens, it's really, we really become the publishers. Right now, we're becoming the banks, right? Our own banks, in a sense. But at the end of the day, we now will become our own creators and publishers and arbiters of what people see and don't see personally from us or business-wise from us. So I'm very excited about that. It's very interesting. So yeah. What else do we want to touch on? We've talked so much about so many things. I'm trying to think when we were talking last, Jasper. One of the topics per your application, Coinsub, I wanted to touch on, because we have a lot of not a lot, but we have a few accountants who are on the show, often on the show. And it's interesting. And people are now starting to kind of wake up and go, oh, I got to do my accounting, whether you're a business or a, an individual. And it's getting a little dicey and it gets a little confusing. And I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. How does Coinsub actually help vendors and end users understand their accounting at the end of the day, right? So if we want people to spend, how are you helping me track all that stuff?
Oh man, I gotta pull up a demo at this point. Are you good if I just pull it up? It takes about a minute, and I'll
Yeah,
just
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
the platform as we talk through it. How do I go about doing this? The share button, share screen.
Oh
All
yeah.
right, all right. Nobody look at my tabs. It's all for research, I promise. All right, cool. So if you can see my screen, sorry, we were looking at the daily prices, so we could figure out if we could do a fixed price, basically for all of our Ethereum-based transactions, just to reduce the volatility. So, from a merchant side of things, we really make it really easy for people to see what their revenue coming in is, right? As well as the subscriptions, everything you would be used to. All these analytics are actually much, much, much easier because this information is on chain, right? Like we can dig things that would have taken other fintech companies months to develop, we can do in hours or matter of days, really, because of how much information is stored on chain, right? Like this page is Polygon scan, and it basically all the transactions and wallets and details regarding the Polygon network. So everybody has access to this for the most part, and this is all confirmed information. I can't change any of it, but it really shows in a relatively cryptic way, but you can decipher it, where things are coming from, where they're going, when it was sent, who sent it. And then also, if you have metadata, you can add in information about perhaps what it was for, right? So that's an accountant's dream. It is a flawless ledger. It's a perfectly flawless ledger, right? Yeah. There is no falsifying it. There is no obfuscate. Well, you can obfuscate, but then that it's obfuscated, right? So we make it easy on a kind of company level, as well as you can just go ahead and drill down into each of the individual products. This kind of level of unparalleled analytics and control made easy by blockchain tech, right? Same thing with the creation of a product. We make it super easy, but was not the question that you guys asked. From the customer end, the way that we view it, everybody pays and gets paid, right? They're only senders and receivers. We only call them merchants and customers because of how payment gateways have labeled things. But in reality, every organization and entity both receives and sends, and I think merchant is going to be an archaic term at some point, right? So for the purposes of this, Coinsub pays all of its vendors, a lot of its employees through our own tech. It's just a lot quicker. Like I think I did one on the call right now, and it takes like 20 seconds, right? So what we do is we make it really easy for you to see like what you have outgoing, right? We call it subscriptions tentatively, but it could be vendor payments, it could be payroll. And we allow you to basically check out what the upcoming amount is. We do the calculations for the next 30 days. So you have absolute transparency over not just your spending over the period of time, but also your predicted outflows. So from that perspective, again, super, super easy, something that does not currently exist. And then for the purposes of transactions, you can go ahead and just, from an accounting perspective, just download all the transactions in a CSV, and it'll tell you what the product it was, when it was, and who paid it. Unified with the subscriber or the customer side of things, now you have a comprehensive view of all your inflows, outflows, with all the tags necessary to, I guess, upload into QuickBooks.
Mm. Yeah, so that's the accounting end of it, and you're right. You're just taking advantage of the fundamental core items that the blockchain has to offer, which is an active or live ledger, right? Mm-hmm. So it is an accountant stream. And I also see it from you're going to have small, medium, and large merchants, but I'm also see it from a societal standpoint. You've got a lot of people who are going to be displaced job wise from different things, or technologies. I don't want to say AI, but just technology in general. But it doesn't mean that they're displaced 100%. It's just the workforce is changing. People are doing more of a gig economy type of thing. There are designers out there who are designing a product one day, but they're also contributing to a community of other designers, maybe typographically, or supplying icons to a platform, and they're making money, right? It would be nice to have every digital payment stream from a gig economy type of person all in one view. The accountant is active and live on a dashboard, so I can actually see what my monthly intake is. Do I have a little discretionary funds to maybe invest a little bit this month or not? Do I have to pump the brakes and say, I need to watch my dollars and cents? Or it may spark a creative way to make more money, or institute different ways to onboard money. But I can see it as a platform beyond what you guys are doing, and just allowing people to take control over their digital payment life, because it's there's going to be tons and tons more options for people to make money in lots of weird small places, but capturing it in one bag, in one dashboard, is a real challenge. But also using that data to say, you know what, Rich, there's some nice investment opportunities here. It looks like you're ahead of the curve with your intake this month or your payments this month. So yeah, maybe you do that. Or
Ties
maybe
right back to the advertising, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Ties right back to it, right? So from our dashboard, now that we know people's spending habits and purchase habits, they could choose to expose themselves or not to potential partners that we have. For example, a partner that does basically short-term yield on locked up tokens, right? Mm-hmm. Why should your money ever not be earning interest, right?
Yes. That's exactly what I'm getting at. So if you do have discretional funds, it's earning interest, and it could be automatic. It really could be very systemized. And it's like, whenever I have a dip, put it here or put it there or divide it here. It's like an NFT. You can divide funds 6,000 ways if you want.
Even more granular though. Think about the day by day, right? My bill's not due until next Tuesday. I know it's going to be paid next Tuesday because it's on auto pay through us now.
Yeah.
What about that? How much value can I accrue over time by taking advantage of literally on the day by day, hour by hour potential yield of my unspent money, right? Everything's on auto pay. Our payroll comes in, we pay out the same subscriptions, utilities every week, right? So it could be literally all of your money management, except for the fun part of discretionary spending, on auto. Never worry about your bills, never worry about handling all this stuff. And never worry about the investment piece if you choose to invest in certain funds, right? All of that is just automatically done. Choose your risk tolerance, things like that. So there's a world where people now, to give people back their free time, perhaps, there's a lot of mundane work that has to be done. And with AI coming up too, a lot of these things will be displaced. But given that money's not real anyways, and it's just a means of transfer of value for humans, maybe the future looks a little bit different, right? A lot more of the generation of money comes from entertainment rather than grunt work.
Yeah. You're hitting on exactly what I'm saying. I think the workforce is going to change. How people make money is already radically changing. Some people are just making lots of money from lots of different places, or maybe just one employer. But when you have it pooled in one place 24/7 with access to control at 24/7, and the ability to utilize AI or something else to help me manage my money 24/7, not just monthly with a call to my broker or someone else, or yearly or whatever it may be, or with your accountant. This stuff is happening on the fly, and you're squeezing every ounce out of everything you make in one environment or across multiple environments, but through one dashboard. It's hyper interesting, really, really interesting. And because people are going to have money coming in from social platforms, and other platforms that they, communities that they contribute to. You may be working on a Web3 movie, getting paid for, some videography work. And there goes my mic stand just fell. And it'll come in from lots of different places. So it's going to be an interesting road ahead. But I'm very excited to see products like this come out, because it's very, it is a kind of a decentralized financy, application, but it has real human implications. And I think it's one of those things that we talked about. It's like not super sexy, but you need it. And when it's done, it just makes your life so much easier. And that's the proof that you need.
Yeah, I agree. I think the terms, a lot of the things are marketing terms, right? I think Web3, the concept of decentralization, centralization will fade away as technology is adopted, just to become part of it, right? Like we really don't talk about cloud services or our infrastructure or our data warehouses or things like that. For the most part, nobody cares. It's just kind of this threshold of tech adoption, just like AI, right? Like I feel like AI chatbots have been around since AOL was around, like the AI, the AOL instant messenger chatbots. Like I remember when I was younger, like chatting with those and like kind of like spoofing people because they thought it was real. It's just interesting that natural language processing has made another appearance again, this time with more data sets.
Yeah, and it's not just LLMs. It's just, it's decision making on the fly and giving AIs permission to push things around. I mean, people many years ago, I was speaking at a Ethereum and a crypto conference in Texas, and I saw some of the first guys building bots, doing like penny trades
Mm-hmm.
on the different exchanges, and they would query data from the whales out in the universe and see who's doing what. It would make sense, and then you gave it a pot of money, a set amount of money to start trading with. You give it permission, and boom, starts running scripts and algorithms, and all of a sudden you're making trades, but at very small portions, nothing crazy at that time, but it's real and it's happening. And this world is moving pretty darn fast, and that was even a while ago. But Jasper, we're both kind of nerds in this world. We love keeping an eye on what's going on and building the infrastructure for tomorrow's products. What what are you excited for in the next year in the world of crypto?
That is a really,
It's a little
really
open, yeah.
that is a really open question. Um, is it weird to get excited about regulatory clarity? It really does unblock a whole lot of things, right?
That's fair.
That's I feel like that's as nerdy as it gets. Is to me, adoption, all this regulatory debate is actually a good thing for technology, right? Because it brings one, awareness to it, and two, shows that it has gained enough traction to merit taxpayer dollars talking about it.
I couldn't agree more. The idea of the fit bill, and that was huge. People don't even some people don't realize it. Normies don't, but it's a big deal. You know, um, and just being able to, I'm excited for regulations as well, or regulatory discussions and rules to be set up, because there really isn't that much. And right now, the exchanges themselves, the Brian Armstrongs of the world, and Coinbase, and others have to step up, and say, look, we'll help you with this. Don't fight us on it. So I see things, even with the Ethereum ETF, I didn't think that was going to happen for another 6 months to a year, to be honest with you. Just the way that relations were going and dialogue was going, but now it's happening. So what else is going to happen? Is Solana going to go? Polygon? What's going to happen with there? I don't think every token should be, have an ETF, but the decision making, I think, needs to become more fluid and seamless, and you need to take away the roadblocks, because the reality of it is, if the US doesn't really want to have this discussion, entrepreneurs and innovators are going to go elsewhere and have the conversation, different countries, and they'll set up their LLCs and organizations in different lands. And, that's what this country, the United States, is predicated on, is innovation, ideas, right? Everything else is cheap and can be outsourced, but the idea, the concept, the strategy is what we're known for. And creating infrastructures, whether it be the internet 1.0 or cloud systems, a lot of it, comes from this world. So yeah, it's a big deal to me, in the long run. And we want to, it's an open system. We want to be friendly and work with everyone across the world. But we also are a group of innovators, and we don't want to stifle that. So what else are you excited for?
Just curious about the unknown, right? We've got a lot of new chains, basically a lot of new networks popping up that attempt to solve similar problems of scalability, applications to very specific use cases. A little bit of give and take on the consensus mechanisms on whether or not it's actually centralized or decentralized. So I'm just curious, when the dust settles, what starts to take shape, right? Like blockchain is very, very, very early in its development. So I'm excited for where it goes, where I might not see or be able to predict, right?
Yeah. And I think, one of the coolest things about doing a podcast like this is I meet lots of interesting, innovative, smart people like yourself. And these conversations are turning into like, oh my gosh, I think the juice is going to run out. The excitement's going to run out, but it's so new and so fresh. And as people are building, they're learning more, and their minds just keep opening up and opening up, and new ideas start flooding in. And it's almost, the problem is not finding ideas, it's controlling the ideas or the amount of them that you might have. I know I went through this, and I still have this, my head spins, at night, thinking about different products and services. And in fact, your product opened my mind up a little bit more than some of the other ones, because I'm like, wow, this really, if you think 6 months to a year and 2 years out, and you look at how many people and how people will be transacting, it's exciting. And then the ideas just come from there, left, right, and center, from accounting to purchasing to advertising to whatever it may be. Very, very exciting. Very exciting. Okay. So Jasper, do you guys have, because we always like to make sure that our audience knows where to find you, and perhaps you're going to be, at Consensus you're actually going to be at Consensus. So for our listeners, tap in, you go say hello to Jasper. If he's, if you're speaking, look for him, or, in the conference halls or whatnot, or hit him up on Twitter. Where can everyone find you, Jasper?
To be honest, LinkedIn is the best place to find me. I actually, admittedly, don't have a Twitter. This might come as a shock to everyone that's on crypto Twitter, but generally there's a lot of fluctuating noise, and I try to stay focused on what the tech will naturally do and what problems will be solved, and not some of the kind of thrash that occurs in between the solutions. So
I don't blame you on that one. I don't blame you on that one. I really like Twitter, especially for the Twitter verse, or whatever you want to call it, the crypto environment. There's a lot of chatter, but it's hard to see through the noise, and it's a little bit of a bummer, but it is a pretty fluid communications channel. And then you got Discord and whatnot, and that's just another platform you need to manage. I love Discord, but it's tough, and I think they're very valuable once you have your product up and running and you're seamless and you're building a more robust community that wants a tighter, closer connection to you and your products and brands. I think that's good. But yeah, it's a little tough. But yeah, LinkedIn, hit them up.
LinkedIn.
And what is your URL? No, but you're on coinsub.io, correct?
That is correct. Our website, not my LinkedIn. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I would say hit them up. This is going to be a tool. We can start using it immediately, or how does it work? Can we get connected right away?
Yeah, absolutely. If you go to coinsub.io, there's a get started button. It is totally self-serve. You don't have to worry about us. We're currently fully deployed on USDC, Polygon, with a lot of the other. We're fully transparent. So when you log in, you'll see what we do support and what we don't support, and it is totally self-serve. Set it up, share the links, give us feedback.
Yeah, cool. And who knows, I might start using that for myself. And I'm very interested in doing further conversations with you, Jasper. I think even, within the Coinsub world or even outside of it, we've had some really good conversations in the past, and I want to keep that going. And, we're always interested to see companies in Web3 grow and expand. So, keep us in check and let us know if you're hiring, and let us know if, how the product is doing and kind of new events that are going to be coming up. So
Absolutely, will do. Coinsub's about to be a dark horse this upcoming year, so be prepared to see a lot more of us.
Good. And that's what we expect. And we wish you the best of luck. And thank you so much for being here. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.